Welcome to the Shepherd Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching or listening. This is an opportunity to introduce you to people at Shepherd of the Hills, and it's an honor to be your host today and to welcome our guest. Our guest is one of our teachers in our school, also the head of our drama program there, Chloe Cunningham. Chloe, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So we're recording this before Christmas break. Mm-hmm. Probably watch it after Christmas, but busy time of year.
Very.
Yeah. You were just telling me about your students making quilts for our shutins.
We're making tie blankets.
Tie blankets.
For our shut-ins. Where they're fleece. So we're cutting them right now, and then we'll start tying them together. And then we've made cards to go with them, and we've been praying over them as well. So It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's great. Great to see our junior high students serving in that way.
They enjoy it. I gave them the option of a couple different things we could do, and that was one that was unanimous. So. Yeah. And it's a big mess in my room right now because when you cut it, it like sends poof balls everywhere. So it kind of looks like it snowed, but it's fun.
And you said the kids have enjoyed it so much you've had to keep going out and buying more material?
Yes. So I originally started with just 6 blankets because I have 12 in-person students and they work in pairs of 2 and they are zipping through them. They just enjoy it so much and they're doing a great job. So I'd have no problem going and getting more fabric so they can keep going.
Yeah, I'm really pleased to see that you provided an opportunity for our students to serve and to get joy out of that, and I know that that'll bring joy to those who receive those gifts as well. So that's wonderful.
Thank you. I'm excited for it too, and they're having fun. We listen to Christmas music while we do it.
So we want to talk about teaching junior high. We want to talk about drama. We want to talk about Chloe. And I told you right off the bat pretty early, we've got to talk about the most recent exciting thing in your life, which is...
I got to think about it a little bit, but I just got engaged to my fiance, obviously, so that's really exciting. We've known each other for about 2 years now, but it's been such a God thing, so it's great. I love talking about this.
Well, let's go there then. His name?
His name is Clayton, but he goes by Clay, Brock, so I'll be Mrs. Brock.
Mrs. Brock, Chloe Brock.
I know, my name is shortening. It's great.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to write. So we met at my aunt and uncle's church because my uncle is a pastor out in Kerrville. Okay. And I was helping them with a servant event. It was a fundraiser for us to go to National Youth Gathering. And we had a spaghetti dinner and an auction at the same time. And my aunt had met him before and thought, maybe they'll get along, and put us in the same room to work together, and then it just kind of bloomed from there. We did get along, and we kept getting partnered for different things while I was helping out at the church, and one thing led to another.
Wow, so it all started at a church spaghetti dinner?
It did.
Wow, how about that?
I know, it worked out funny. He was teasing me about a charm that I wanted for my James Avery bracelet that I was bidding on, because it was also an auction, and I was teasing him about some lawnmower that we both ended up winning. So
you won the lawnmower.
He won the lawnmower.
He won the lawnmower.
And then I won my charm.
Okay, all right, that's good. That worked out very well.
It did.
Yeah.
It was really fun.
Well, Clay, I'm just very excited for you. What a wonderful milestone in your life, and you said it's such a God thing. And
it is.
Yeah.
It was one of those, I'm not super young, I'm not super old, but I was starting to get a little frustrated, if I'm honest, and like, when is this going to happen? Is it going to happen? And at one point I got a little frustrated with God and said, whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. I'm going to stop trying to force it. And literally 2 weeks later, I met him. And it took a little while because we both were not really sure what was going to happen with it. Our first date was my sister's wedding, which was just about a year ago. So.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. And how did he propose to you?
Well, he had this big thing planned, and then he couldn't wait. So we had been setting up stuff at his house that he had just bought for Christmas, and I went to get paint off of me because we had been painting chairs as well. And I came out from getting the paint off of me, and he's like, "Come here, I want to show you something." And I ended up like pushing him a little bit because I was like, "You're being really weird." And he positioned me in front of the tree and then got down on his knee and asked in front of the Christmas tree that we had just set up.
Aww.
And it was really sweet. I hugged him and totally blanked and didn't say anything for a while, and then just yelled out, "Oh yes, I forgot to say yes." So it ended up being kind of like funny situation, which is very us. He had also gotten an ornament that said engaged in 2020 that he had put on the tree.
Aww.
So it was really sweet. It was very like low key and exactly what we kind of are. So very simple, and I liked it.
And this has been how long ago?
Just 2 weeks.
2 weeks. So, you still have that glow about you.
I know. Yeah, just 2 weeks ago, right before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, so exciting.
It really is. We're starting that planning process because it's not going to be a super long engagement. Yeah. We're hoping for this summer. Being really? A teacher, it's really hard to do it outside of summer breaks. Right. So, yeah, we're going to see venues this weekend, and it'll be a lot of fun.
Okay, here we go.
I know.
A busy life is going to get busier.
Yes, always.
Yeah. Well, now you mentioned your uncle's church, and your uncle is a big part of your story.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit more about your family, your upbringing, how all of that ties together?
I can. It's kind of a crazy story. I was born in Nederland, Texas, which is on the southeast border. Pretty close to the coast, and my mom had me very young. She had just turned 18 when she had me, so we stayed in Nederland, and it was kind of one of those it takes a village situations. My grandparents watched me. We actually lived in my great-grandpa's house for a long time, and my biological father was just not the best guy and ended up leaving. And my mom met a man online and he was in the Army, and he came and visited, and they ended up dating and got married. And so I had a stepfather, and we moved all over because he was in the Army. So I moved to Pennsylvania for a while, then to Colorado. We lived on Fort Carson. We moved to Fort Hood. My stepfather was supposed to go to Kuwait for a 2-year deployment, and then he would retire right when Hurricane Rita hit. And we had just moved back to where my family is, and when Hurricane Rita hit, we were displaced, and so they actually ended up bringing us back to Fort Hood, where he retired there. Okay. After those 2 years. We moved back home to Nederland, and then my mom got really sick, only a couple years after having my little brother. And it just got progressively worse. So she had Crohn's, and that just was a complication for everything. When you get sick and you have that, your immune system is really suppressed, and so it makes it really easy for everything to go badly quickly. Right. So she had a couple of months where she was very lethargic. When you would talk to her, she would fall asleep or just couldn't really hold a conversation. And in June of 2008, I was talking to her about my brother's birthday. He was going to be turning 6, and he was a spunky little thing. And so we wanted to do something fun. And she woke up one day and was really with it and excitable and wanted to plan something. So we planned a little something. And then the next day, she was right back to this lethargic, could barely hold a conversation. And at one point, she fell asleep while talking to me.
Oh, wow.
And so I called my stepfather, and I was like, something is not right. We've got to get her to a hospital. And we did. And she was there exactly 2 weeks, and it ended up turning into sepsis. She had pneumonia. It turned to sepsis, and so her organs started to stop working. It was really hard. We lost her on June 30th. So 2 weeks after my brother's birthday and 2 weeks before mine, right before I turned 15. So it was a rough summer because that happened. My brother fell getting out of a bathtub and cut his head open. I had my appendix out. We spent like the whole summer in the hospital.
Oh my goodness.
And then a couple months after that, my biological father showed up again, having heard that my mom passed away. And my stepfather had never adopted my sister and I. We didn't ever really see a need for that. Mm-hmm. So it just didn't happen. And he was really struggling with my mom's passing and had met someone new already a couple months after she had passed away. Mm-hmm. And so we were kind of in this what's going to happen situation. My biological father wanted to take us, but the court said we needed to live with someone blood related. Okay. And at this time, over these past few months, my aunt and uncle had gotten their first call as a pastor to Holy Cross, which was down in Nederland. That was our home church.
Okay.
And in February, on my mom's last birthday, not that we knew it at the time, I guess she's my cousin, but she's like my little sister, Anna, was born premature. So she was in the hospital for a really long time, while this stuff was going on.
Okay.
And my aunt and uncle, having gone from 0 children to a preemie, offered to take my sister and I in as well. So in February, they had a premature, like little tiny baby, and then took in 2 teenage girls as well. So it was a big change for everybody, but especially for them. And we moved in with them. It was a little bit of a rough transition on my part because I had gone from kind of playing mom and helping out a lot to being a kid again. Mm-hmm. But they loved me through it all, even when I made that really, really difficult to do, and encouraged me to, find my gift and remember that although things don't always go how we want them, God works it all out for good, mm-hmm. which when you're in the depths of those things is really hard to see. But now looking back on it, I can totally see how he worked through the call process of having them down there at this time, right. And Anna's birth, and them sharing that birthday is a very special thing as well. It all kind of worked out. We went to court against my biological father, and when he realized he wasn't going to win, we had a couple visitations, and then he left again, which is honestly for the best. It was another one of those, like, God protecting us from more drawn out cases and things like that, so that we were able to kind of settle in as our new family,
right?
Which looks really weird and different, but it works. My aunt and uncle are my aunt and uncle, but they're also kind of like a mom and a dad, and they're also kind of like friends, and so it works out really well. Anna is the baby that they had, and she's my little bestie. She's like a miniature version of myself. Yeah. And now they have Jonah, who's 3.5.
Yeah, that's right.
And so much fun. He's a lot of fun. He just a bundle of energy. And my brother stayed with our stepfather was his father, so he's technically a half brother.
Okay.
So he's still with my stepfather, but we see him regularly, and he's 18 now, so he's in his last year of high school, which is crazy, and still rambunctious and fun and spunky. So yeah.
Wow, that's quite a story.
I know, it's kind of all over.
It is, but you summed it all up by saying you feel like in the moment it just feels like a mess, mm-hmm. but then looking back on it, you feel like you can see the hand of God orchestrating. What causes you to say that? What causes any person to look back at life and see what was a mess at the time and say, I see the hand of God on that?
Just, I guess the timing was a big part of it. The fact that my aunt and uncle had just been called down there and happened to live in a place where they could take us in, and having Anna as well, and still being willing to do that. It was definitely a God thing. They felt very called to do that. And seeing how them being available to do that saved my sister and I from more chaos with our biological father. Mm-hmm. And I needed to live with the pastor at that point in my life. I really did. I was very angry about everything that had been going on, and I didn't know how to channel that or turn it into something. I didn't know if I was angry at God or what I was even angry at. I was just angry. And having a pastor in the home, and also my aunt, who she's a trained DCE, but at that time was playing more of a, like, let me step in and kind of help and be a mother-like figure for you. Mm-hmm. I needed those people. They had a lot of tough love. I spent 1 whole year of high school grounded. I deserved it, but I spent 1 whole year grounded because I didn't know how to work through it, and they were very patient. I don't know that I could have been that patient, but they helped me work through it. They actually got me involved in church again. I hadn't really been since my confirmation. I started helping my uncle he taught confirmation to the middle school students, but he did it where there was a large group and then small group leaders that came in, and had me as one of the small group leaders for 2 years. And that really helped me kind of process things and see that, yes, things have been difficult, but I wasn't the only one experiencing difficult things. And when you're a teenager, that doesn't seem true. It feels like it's only you.
Yeah.
So that was a big help. And then I also got involved with our DCE that was there. Her name is Christy, and she helped me move into the youth band. And so I sang in the youth band for the youth nights as well. And it all just kind of helped me process and understand that, like, God's plan is the right plan, clearly, but we don't always agree with what it is. And although it hurts, I mean, now my mom is not feeling sick. She's not struggling with the Crohn's. She's not, I can't have a conversation with her anymore, but I know that she's better, and I will see her again because she was a believer and I am as well. So although it still hurts and it's still sad, I can understand it a little bit more. I hope that all makes sense, but
It certainly does. Yeah, and there's a lot there. I want to ask you, talking about the anger. A couple questions come to mind there. One is, how has that helped you to deal with junior high students or anybody who is having anger issues, having been there yourself?
Oddly enough, when I was student teaching, I student taught in Chicago, in a school in Chicago. And during my semester of student teaching, one of my students, I was teaching 5th grade, her father died just out of nowhere. Wow. And it allowed me to really not only sympathize with her, but I could truly empathize and understand, because she dealt with it by becoming angry as well. And so we spent a lot of time talking it out, and this is, my situation, and let me see how you're feeling, and let me just be your punching bag. Not literally, but throw it at me. Let me know what you're feeling. And it led to many talks, some of them on the girls' bathroom floor. When I would find her in there crying, we would sit and just talk it out. And I actually still write letters with her. She's lovely. She's in high school now. And it just allowed me to truly understand what they're feeling. No, I'm not in their situation, and I was a little bit older. But I think it helps when they know you're human.
Yep.
Which I know we're all human, but they know that you're a real person, that you're not just someone who lives at the school and, reads books all day long so that I can teach them. I have life experiences, and I'm not afraid to share that with them. I tell them the truth. I was not a great teenager at times because I was upset and angry, and I thought God didn't love me or love my mom or whatever it really was that I was feeling at that point. Yeah. And that honesty with them truly connects. So even when kids are dealing with things like their friends not getting along or parents potentially separating at home, they know that I'm somebody that will listen and talk to them about it and pray with them about it, and not necessarily tell them what to do, but just be that person to, like a sounding board. I just want to listen and pray with you. And I think they need that. They do, especially in junior high, because that's not only when things happen, but just everyday things are confusing in junior high. And, oh, my life is terrible because I got a C or something like that. Those simple things mean a lot to kids at that age.
Yeah, they do. You talk about helping kids through those tough times, and you mentioned how good it was for you to be in a household with a pastor and a DCE, and I was waiting for you to tell me something really wise that they said to you to help you through all that, but they probably did say wise things, but that's not what you shared. What you shared was they got you involved at the church, they got you around other kids so you could see that you're not the only one who has struggles. It wasn't so much what they said, it was what they did, and you also mentioned their patience.
Oh, just leaps and bounds of patience. Yeah. And they still have to be patient with me sometimes because I'm a little stubborn. I'm German. And, when I get an idea in my head, sometimes I need it knocked out of my head, not literally, but they still show a lot of patience. They're wonderful. And a lot of it truly was the way that they lived their lives, and the way that even when I was being as frustrating as I was being, they continued to love me. Right. And I didn't always like the way that they chose to love me because I was grounded. But
for a year.
It wasn't like literally day to day, but I would get ungrounded and then do something again. So, but I needed that. I needed to see consistency. I hadn't had a lot of that.
There you go.
And they were that patient, consistent, just those parents that I needed that I didn't have for a majority of my life. So.
Yeah. Now, let's talk a little more about your career. Shepherd of the Hills is your second call as a teacher.
It is.
Can you tell us about you went to college where?
Concordia, Chicago. Which is really in River Forest. But.
And then your first call was nearby, right? Was it
pretty
Illinois?
Close. It was about 2 hours away, 2 hours north, in a little town called Freeport, Illinois. The school is Emmanuel. It's a little farm town. If anybody knows that area, it's close to Rockford, Illinois. But it's also really close to Wisconsin. And it was a really good place for me to start out because it was a nice small community. It's a school that had been there for a very long time. They had recently gotten a new principal. I believe it was his second year when I had been there. So there were a lot of changes happening anyway. And I went in as the 8th grade teacher, which was a little scary to me at first because I had really only experienced up to like 6th grade at that point. But it ended up being awesome. I had a little group of 9 kids in my first class. They just graduated high school this past year. And they were wonderful. I learned a lot from them. We had a lot of fun. They did 8th grade trips a little differently than we do here. The parents and the kids plan the trip. They had to plan the destination, they plan the activities, and then they fundraise for it. And if they fundraise enough, that's what we get to do. If not, we change our plans. And that year, with it being such a small group, we just went to Chicago, which was only about 2 hours away, but it ended up being so much fun. We did a lot of really great things, and I got to know those kids really well. I had one student who, she had a really rough year that year. Her parents were they were not quite getting along, and they weren't really understanding why, and she kind of felt in the middle of it. So it was another one of those situations where there were a lot of long talks and things, but I learned so much. I learned that it was okay to make mistakes as a teacher in front of your kids, which going through like school and training for that, a lot of the times they're like, you want to try things out at home? That's not always ideal. You do want to try things out at home, but it doesn't mean it'll go that way in class, and you have to be able to kind of roll with it. And kids learn more sometimes from those situations than from things working out perfectly.
Yes.
So I learned that through that. I taught almost every subject when I was there because it was such a small school. You were pretty much with your homeroom. My second year, I ended up being 7th and 8th grade combined. So that was another learning experience of balancing when we could do things together and when I had to level different things. So it was a great opportunity. I really loved it. I made some really great friends there. So I joined a bowling league when I was there, and I randomly that was the thing to do. So I went to the bowling alley and signed up and said, just put me on whatever team. I ended up on a team with 3 women who were 60 and over, and it was wonderful. I met some of the best people ever doing the bowling, so it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it there. It was a totally different atmosphere, but it was what I needed to kind of like get my feet wet in teaching. So.
Sure. And then how did you end up here?
So my aunt and uncle that are in Kerrville, they knew Candace Dominguez, who was here.
Who is now in Kerrville.
Yeah. But was here at the time. Yeah. And she knew them because her family is from Kerrville, and her parents still attend Hosanna. Yeah. And she had mentioned something about teaching here, and he said, well, if you guys ever have anything, my niece is a Lutheran teacher who would love to come closer to home, and she's got these talents, and she said she'd pass that along to Miss Gary, and did, and it turned out they needed a junior high teacher. So we had our first phone call, and Miss Gary and I are a lot alike, and we hit it off right away, and it worked out really well. It was mutually beneficial. I had some of the talents and interests that Shepherd was looking for at the time, and I came and did a site visit, and it was done at that point. I fell in love with this place. I made friends on one luncheon that I'm still friends with now, and it just kind of worked out. It was definitely a God thing as well. It was getting to be really hard to be all by myself, really far away. I didn't have family. I had some family in Chicago, but most of my family was down in Texas, so it was kind of a little bit lonely.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that God worked all that out, and you are here. You've certainly made a great impression on our school program, and made a difference for so many students, not just academically and just your personal mentoring as well. I want to talk about the drama program as well, because a lot of people will know you for that. Mm-hmm. You were able to put on some really great productions and teach the students a lot of wonderful skills. Can you tell us a little more about drama? Like, where did this come from in your life? Why is this a part of you?
Well, I'm really dramatic. My family will tell you that. I've always been a person who talks with my hands and loves to tell stories, and some of that got me in trouble in high school. So that had to do with a little bit of, being grounded, because I was overly dramatic. But I've learned to kind of hone that in and use it now for good. Okay. So I did a couple plays in high school that I really loved doing. It was one of those like community kinds of things where you could get with a whole bunch of people from different backgrounds and create this beautiful piece together. In college, I got a little too busy. I just couldn't balance that and school and work and that kind of thing. So I got away from it. But it was always something I've had interest in. I enjoy reading plays and going to plays. And when I was in Freeport, I dabbled in it a little bit with teaching, because our second year we added in some new electives. And so I started it there in a much smaller scale than what we've built it up to here. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of always been something I've loved and now can share that love with the kids. It's also something that's great for working through life's problems, because stepping into the shoes of characters who have the similar background or story to you it's a wonderful way to release some of that emotion or stress that you're feeling, and to truly understand how others feel and be able to portray that. Right.
I'm thinking of a couple of plays that really made an impression on me. Of course, The Wizard of Oz was your big Broadway production with the costumes. I mean, it was just first class.
Thank you.
And then I was also thinking of the one where the person who wrote the play got a hold of you and actually came to watch it. Can you tell that story?
Yes. So funnily enough that you bring that one up, we are taking that piece to contest this year.
Oh, great.
We only ever did it as a fundraiser. It's called Whispers, and it's about a group of kids whose parents were involved in the Iraq War, and their parents all passed away in one way or another, most of them in combat. And it's built on monologues, which are like one character telling their story, and then they also are in a community where they are helping each other kind of through it and talking through it. And I read the play online and I loved it. So the kids loved it. We went ahead and ordered it. And then it turns out that the play script company contacts the author when people buy their play, and she was local. She happened to be from San Antonio. We didn't even know that. Wow. Honestly, in that one, I didn't even look at the information for the author. We just loved the play. Wow. And I ended up getting a postcard, and the postcard said something about her being local and that she'd love to come see it. And one thing led to another, and she came to our opening night of that show, and it was a wonderful moment for me, but also for the kids, to see the person that wrote this beautiful piece. And we ended up learning from her coming there that they were based on true stories. She had worked on a camp for a summer built for kids who had experienced this. And so she had taken their stories with their permission and created this piece. And it helped the kids to realize that the power behind it. We already knew that it was an emotional piece, but also just the true meaning, and that they were portraying real experiences helped them to do an even more incredible job on that piece. That is honestly one of my favorites we've ever done. It was our smallest piece. That's why we've chosen to take it this year to contest, because it's a powerful, powerful piece. And it shows all different experiences, but how we have a common thread of each other. We can support each other and help each other through whatever it is we're feeling.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wish you guys the best. I'm sure.
Thank you.
I'm sure you guys will do great.
They are already blowing me away.
Yeah.
We've only been at it for about 9 or 10 rehearsals at this point, and they've put me to tears in a good way several times. Oh. That's how they know they've done well in drama, is if I cry.
Okay, all right.
So that's their goal. The second they notice that I have, they're like in the back cheering because I'm crying. So
that's great. Made her cry. Okay, so end of last school year, we were planning to do Lion King. That was going to be Wizard of Oz times 10. It was just going to be the biggest production we've ever done.
It was.
Huge disappointment that because of COVID, we didn't get to do all of that. Mm-hmm. How did you deal with that disappointment, and how did you help the students to deal with that disappointment?
Personally, when I found out that there was a chance we weren't going to get to do it, I didn't take it very well. I'd already done a lot of planning at that point, so I was very sad. The group that was going to be in 8th grade last year, or that was in 8th grade last year, is the group that I built this program with. And they were loyal. They had come so far. Mm-hmm. Our first show was Beauty and the Beast, and it was phenomenal, but it was nothing compared to the shows that they were able to build afterwards. And they'd grown and brought in so many people because of their love for it and their passion and talent for it. Right. So to tell that group, it broke my heart. I spent a lot of time crying about it and praying about it. And when the final decision came that there was not going to be school for the year, I knew I had to make the decision that Lion King was not going to be able to happen. So before I told them, I needed to find some kind of alternate. I did not want them to go out with nothing. So I worked and did some research, and I ended up finding some plays that could be done virtually. Mm-hmm. So when I sent out this information, I let the 8th graders know, I know this is not how you want to go out. This is not how I want you to. So we have this opportunity. Let's make something happen. And they jumped right on board and were very excited about it. Mm-hmm. So we put together a virtual play. It was a very quirky play about how to survive in a quarantine.
I remember it. It was good.
It was good. It was a different kind of piece, but we learned a lot. I learned a lot of editing skills, like trial by fire, very quickly. Yeah. But it was a lot of fun, and we released that on the day that would have been our first Lion King production. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't the same, but it was so much more positive to go out on that note, and they were proud of that piece. Yes. And it worked out really well, honestly. The kids learned not to take time with each other for granted, because that 8th grade class lost their whole last semester pretty much. And a lot of the activities that they would typically get to be in together had to be apart. Mm-hmm. But they learned the value of relationship and spending time and understanding that this moment isn't forever. Mm-hmm. So take advantage of the moments that you do have. And I think we did as well. Mm-hmm. Not realizing that was going to be the end of that class, of getting to see them in person other than our graduation. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the way that you adapted and
thank you.
Taught them some life lessons out of it and found something else that could be done in a different format. And what do they say? You take the lemons and make lemonade out of it the best you can.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm proud of them. They really helped with that piece too, and they made it their own. It was lovely. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So what's next for our drama program? It's hard to predict right now in the age of COVID, but what's on your mind?
Right now we're working on a piece that can be done in person or it can be live streamed. It's a smaller cast to allow for more spacing, and just so that our numbers are not where they shouldn't be according to state standards right now, which is why we chose a tried and true play that we knew would be emotional but also not require grand scenes or lots of people to be involved. And we'll take that to contest in Austin in February, which is our typical PSIA UIL contest that we do. But this year they're totally going to get first. We know that. Yep. We've moved a place every year. We went from 4th to 3rd to 2nd. So
there's
clearly
only one place left.
There's only one more place to go.
Absolutely.
And this group, every group has been wonderful, but I think this group, seeing that they didn't get to perform last year, sparked a fire in them. Yeah. And they have been amazing. Every single one of them. Wow. And they are so supportive of each other and encouraging each other constantly. And it's wonderful. It's a mixed age group of 6th to 8th graders. And we've had to adjust how we do things. So we leave our masks on, which sometimes proves to be a little difficult when speaking, but we make it work. We do some rehearsals outside when we can, just to allow for some extra spacing and fresh air, and they love it anyway because it's gorgeous right now. So that's kind of been the way that we've handled things as of now. Drama class, I have some online and some in person, and we adapt as necessary. And so they're still learning good skills, and we're still having a lot of fun. There's a lot of laughter. It's just further apart. We're hoping to do a spring musical, but as of right now, it doesn't look like we can, because that would require a larger cast, as well as more mixing of ages, and we're trying to not do that right now. I've looked at some options for smaller cast musicals, and there are some available, so we're just kind of playing it by ear right now. We don't want this to be our last piece this year. We want to do something else. We just don't know exactly what that piece is yet. I know we'll figure it out, but it just isn't. We're not aware of it yet.
Well, Chloe, thank you for your leadership of our drama program, the impact you're making on the lives of our junior high students, and just the energy and the creativity that you bring to the ministry here. You are truly appreciated.
Thank you. I love being here. It's become family. I can't imagine anywhere else right now.
And again, congratulations on the engagement.
Thank you.
Just so excited for you and appreciate your time and your very open sharing with us on the podcast. So thank you so much for taking time to do this.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. And thank you so much for tuning in, for watching or listening. I know that you enjoyed listening to Chloe share about herself and some of the things that she's been involved in. And we'll continue to bring you people from Shepherd of the Hills that you'll be interested to get to know better. So please tune in next time. And until then, the Lord's blessings to you. May He keep you safe and healthy, and the peace of the Lord be with you today.